final agreement, a final peace agreement between the M23 and your government. Are you close to reaching that agreement?
Well, peace is always a process. I hope that we're closer than we were a few days ago, a few weeks ago, and a few months ago. It's a tedious, and I won't deny it. It's sometimes also a very difficult process, but at the same time, the Congolese government remains fully committed to obtaining a peace agreement, a final peace agreement that will also put an end to the instability and to the occupation that has been plaguing two of our major provinces. So we are doing our utmost to be close.
How soon, Your Excellency, would you say by the end of the year you think you can get this one wrapped up?
We would want it to be a matter of weeks and hopefully not months.
You'd want it, but do you think it will be?
We are doing everything we can. Of course, it takes two to tango, and the M23 has to play its part in this effort, and we hope that they continue showing up. We also hope that they show up in a more constructive manner, obviously.
When you say more constructive manner, it sounds like you're not happy with something they did. What is that?
Well, I could start with the killing of innocent civilians.
Right.
I could start with the occupation of sovereign territory with the support of Rwandan troops. I could also speak about the fact that they have continuously, despite the fact that we are in peace talks, been establishing and consolidating a parallel administration, fundamentally undermining the very rule of law they claim to be fighting for in the DRC. So these are all elements that show that there is a gap between the posturing that you have in peace talks and the reality on the ground, and especially a reality on the ground that weighs enormously on our civilian population.
Madam Foreign Minister, when I'm listening to you, when you mention those issues, killings of civilians and the setting up of parallel administrations, have those issues not been resolved yet in the peace talks? And this is what has been reported, is there is still a disagreement over a basic principle, the idea that the M23 will disband, will withdraw, and hand over territory to the government of the DRC. Is that still a contentious point? Well,
when you look, for example, at the United Nations Security Council Resolution 2773, when you look at the peace agreement that we signed with Rwanda in Washington, D.C. on June 27th, you can see that the end state that we're perpetually working towards is a full restoration of state authority. There is no scenario in which the DRC, the government of the DRC, the legitimate government of the DRC, will ever accept a prolonged presence of an occupying force that is undermining the rule of law.
And do you feel the M23 hasn't accepted that principle, despite the Doha Declaration agreement signed on July 19?
I think it's getting there, but I think that there could be more tangible efforts also on the ground that could show us the good faith that they claim to come to the talks with.
But you're confident that the M23 will agree to that?
We are confident that we will remain on our principles. Now, what the M23 does is fully its responsibility.
But do you believe they are negotiating in good faith and they're committed to that principle?
I look at facts, not necessarily at beliefs. And the facts show me that they participate in the talks, that they are active in the talks, that they show up to meetings, that they sign on certain documents. The facts also show the realities on the ground that I just enumerated. So this is where we have to strike a balance. And I think this is where different partners have different partitions and different roles that they can play.
When you say, though, you look at the facts and you have to strike a balance, when you look at the facts of what's happening on the ground and you strike that balance, do you believe that this party is committed to the principle of eventually disbanding the parallel administration? Or do you have serious doubts that they're just, letting time pass?
I believe that they will come to acknowledge the reality on the ground, which is one where the DRC will not tolerate them remaining where they are, occupying, but also that many other stakeholders will not tolerate that. And it is a position of increasing isolation. And so I want to believe that they are pragmatic to the sense of understanding that it is a fruitless endeavor, if you want, to remain in that posture and to remain in a posture that is one that will not be tolerated, not by the Congolese government or by the international community.
On October the 14th, the DRC and the M23 agreed to form a monitoring body to oversee a ceasefire. But there's still fighting going on, isn't there? When do you think this ceasefire is going to actually kick in?
On the side of the Congolese government, we are committed to a ceasefire. On the other hand, we are also in a posture where we have to defend our territory, in a posture where we have to make sure that the occupying forces, and when I speak of occupying forces, I'm not only talking about the M23, because we know that the M23 is accompanied and supported by the Rwandan Defense Forces. We cannot permit that the territory that they're already encroaching on can be widened.
So what is delaying all parties saying right now today, this is the ceasefire date? If you're ready, do you perceive there is a delay or a lack of willingness or desire on the part of Rwanda or the M23 to
their
commit?
Position, their posturing on the ground shows that. So when they are ready to stop fighting, we will be ready to stop fighting too.
Have you told them we want a ceasefire now and received an answer of no?
I'm not in those direct conversations, if you want, where I would confront the M23 with such a question. But our position has always been that we want to spare as many civilian lives as possible, and that a ceasefire would be necessary to do so, or would be necessary to create a more protective environment. So I believe the M23 has certainly no doubt on the posture of the Congolese government in that regard.
What has delayed the prisoner swap?
I always say you sign an agreement, but that's when the real work begins. And these are things that may not necessarily appear to the public eye or be as obvious to the public eye. Whilst this mechanism has been set in place, at the same time, there are a lot of technical steps that have to be taken into account and that have to materialize, be it on the side of the Congolese government or on the side of the M23. On our side, we're doing our utmost to prepare technically and operationally to be ready for a prisoner swap. I think
you know the criticism, I'm sure, though, from the other side, which is that the DRC simply doesn't want to release or to swap these prisoners, that you see these people as criminals who've committed crimes. And
well,
is that the situation?
A prisoner swap should not be mistaken with impunity. And I think this is where the M23 may have expectations that do not fit reality. It is not because we are engaging in a logic of a prisoner swap that we are engaging in what? Impunity, full impunity for massacres, for raping, for looting. And so I think these are the core issues where the M23 may have to do some soul searching and understand a bit more what it means to be a party to a peace process that has the ambition to create lasting peace. And we have all learned, not just from the DRC's own history, but you look at our neighbors, you look beyond our neighbors, you look at so many other regions and continents. You cannot build sustainable peace on the foundation of impunity. And the M23 needs to understand that.
Was this a point that perhaps wasn't clarified sufficiently in the agreement? Because
isn't it common sense?
It
that
should
you shouldn't get away with killing?
It should be.
And you shouldn't be rewarded for killing?
Absolutely. But do you think there was perhaps the agreement was too vague in just mentioning the exchanges of...
Well, you know, our posture on the matter of impunity has always been very clear. Even before the M23 renewed its rebellion, or the M23 rebellion was reignited by Rwanda, President Tshisekedi has always been very clear. We cannot build sustainable peace in Eastern DRC or other parts of the DRC without justice.
Okay, so when do you think you'll be able to exchange in prisoner swaps? Are we talking weeks, months?
If it were in my hands, we would have had an agreement yesterday. So I'm not projecting myself from a perspective of just the ambition that we have as a government. I'm cognizant of the party that is opposite of us or that we're facing. Again, we would want this to happen rather in weeks and not months. It depends on the posture and on the attitude of the M23 in the talks.
And does that apply as well to the ceasefire? Do you have any idea? Can you tell our viewers in weeks or months you expect the ceasefire to be in place? Do you have any expectations?
The earlier the better, but at this point it would be difficult to, or it would be over optimistic or over ambitious, if you want, to provide a concrete date.